Today, SOR.
Breaking news I see across Channel 9 in the broadcasting sphere. Mary Berry has just announced she is to leave the Great British Bake Off ahead of the show's move to Channel 4. My decision to stay with the BBC is out of loyalty to them, as they have nurtured me and the show. That was a unique and brilliant format from day one, she said in a statement. What a privilege and honour it has been to be part of 7 years of magic in a tent. And she says, I wish the programme crew and future bakers every possible success, and I am so very sad not to be part of it. Farewell to soggy bottoms. Now, 1,000 more rapid housing units, with a third of them completed by the end of this year, as well as an additional 2 million for support services for homeless people. These are just some of the measures expected when the government launches the first part of its action plan on homelessness later this morning. This comes after reports this week from Dublin Simon showing that a record number of 168 people were sleeping rough in inner city Dublin on Tuesday morning. That figure doesn't include a sizable number now sleeping on the floor of a cafe in Merchants Quay, Ireland. Brian O'Connell spent Tuesday night in that cafe and joins me now. Brian, I gather that before the doors even opened there was a queue.
That's right, every night of the week people are queuing outside the cafe on Merchants Quay, just across Mormont Quay in Dublin city centre, to essentially share a spot on the floor, and they've been referred there by the homeless free phone number after all beds are full in the city. Now, this service was first set up in January 2015. It's funded by the state. It was meant as a service to offer people respite, to give them a meal, showers, maybe perhaps some health intervention, and it was to be a temporary measure. People would be referred there, as I said, when all beds were full. And when it was announced, Joan, it was for 30 people, but since it began, very quickly in the weeks afterwards, up to 70 people a night, I understand, have been using the cafe, and it's really now transitioned from an advice service into an accommodation one. Even though the staff are simply giving people a mat, they give them a sheet, and people are sleeping on the floors. There is criticism of the cafe now from some quarters. For example, independent councillor Mannix Flynn, he wants HICWIT to go in and inspect and review the service. He's also raised concerns around health and safety, and he is saying actually that the service should be ended. Other locals have raised concerns that planning permission wasn't given for what's essentially a residential unit now on the site. So this population of 70 people, they're not included in that figure you mentioned from Dublin Simon earlier this week, even though if the cafe closed in the morning, obviously you'd have 70 more people on the streets.
So that 168 figures, using simple maths, would be up to 238, almost 240.
Exactly.
Now, so you put these criticisms down from Mannix Flynn and others to the chief executive of Merchants Quay, Tony Gilligan. But first, you describe, Brian, if you would, the kind of people who were using the place on Tuesday night.
Well, you have to be over 18. The oldest person I met was a man who was almost 70 years of age. He was separated and he was trying to access the private rental market but not having much success. The youngest I met was an 18-year-old Congolese national. There was a huge range in terms of ethnicity and needs, from addiction to mental health. One man arrived in a wheelchair, and staff told me that he sleeps in the wheelchair every night because he has back issues and doesn't want to sleep on the floor. Addiction was clearly an issue for many of those who crossed the door. There were parents, there were grandparents, there were students, there were people just out of prison, there were tradesmen, a huge variety of people, and then some of them had simply fallen through the cracks of all the other services available. This first woman I met, she's in her 20s. She's been on the streets since she was just 12 years of age, and it's her first time using the service.
I've been on heroin since I was 12.
12 years of age.
Yeah, people have an awful perception of people who are on drugs, but to look at me, you wouldn't think I was on drugs. I was forced out of the house. My mother got remarried when I was 11, and I didn't get on with my mother's new husband, so I kind of ran away and was forced out at the same time, and was sleeping in the sheds in Leopardstown racecourse that are full of horses. I used to come into the city centre every day, and someone, I didn't even know what it was, but someone said to me, this will keep you warm, this will help you sleep, because I was very scared, and it made me feel a lot safer. It kept me feeling scared.
What did you do for money?
I used to grow up, I had a group of people I was going around with, and we had a bit of a setup together. We used to go into shops, grabbing perfumes, aftershaves, clothes, sort of things to order, things we knew people to buy in the pubs.
You have kids?
I have 3 kids. When I was on my methadone for 2.5 years, I was fully functional, and I was looking after my kids. Social workers were involved, but they had agreed and said themselves that I was a brilliant mother, that I was more than capable of looking after the kids.
When's the last time you saw them?
I haven't seen my kids in a year now.
It must be the hardest thing.
It is very hard. My oldest son is 11 in November. Sorry. My other son son's 7 and my little girl is 22 months. And I hadn't seen him in a year, so I had been clean for years, and I went back on drugs then and had a string of abusive relationships, and in the process trusted the wrong people and lost my kids due to that poor judgment. And
do you think, and this is probably a hard question for you to answer, your kids are better off at the moment?
At the moment, definitely. I went to court and I fully agreed that they should be where they are at the moment, but what I did ask for was I asked for help.
So heartbreaking stuff there. She's been waiting 7 weeks for a detox bed. She may not get one this side of Christmas, she's been told. Now, the next person I met has been using the service for some time with his brother, as it happens, and both of them come in every single night. There was 27 of them in their family, and while he had a viewing that day for an apartment, he wasn't very hopeful.
I'm here over a year now, and they're more than very good to me.
You were here a year?
I'm over a year, a little over a year.
You're sleeping on a mat?
Well, I really don't mind. I would like to say that once I'm inside the emergency key door, I'm very happy. Because as I say, they're gentle, they're kind, they're giving their love, care and their life. For not just for me, for all the clients here.
What age man are you?
I'm 40 now.
So you come in, you have a bite to eat?
And a bite to eat, have a cup of tea.
Do you get a few hours sleep?
Oh, I do. I get a good 7 hours.
What did you do all day today?
I went to see my parents, and I went to see an uncle in Ballyfarmers.
Do your parents know where you're sleeping tonight?
Well, I do. I really do. I don't like to tell them to worry them. I know I told them I'm in a very nice place, but I didn't say where. To me, this is Merchant's Hotel. I call it a hotel because you've been getting better in it.
Some people will say,
Well, some people
sleeping on the floor is not a hotel.
yeah, but some people is never happy. Well, it'd be better if they could get if they could get beds, then it might be better. But still, they can't do everything at one time if they're not getting any backup. They're better than being on the street.
You slept outside?
I know. Well, once they did, but
What's it like?
well, it's horrible.
Is there any sign of you getting an apartment or a flat?
I had a viewing yesterday. It wasn't a viewing just for me. He had 3 other people there as well. And then he took all our names and numbers. He said, I'll get back to you. But I heard that before, they never get back.
Yeah, Brian, it's just so tough, those stories that you've just brought us. I mean, that man, grateful for every little thing he can have, just at the roof over his head, and even if it's sleeping on the floor. And then that so tough, that woman you spoke to earlier, who's not able to look after her children. But I'm sure there are lots of other stories you could have brought to us as well.
There were so many stories I could bring to you, Sean. There was a man who was 65, had worked all his life, and because of a relationship breakdown, he's found himself without a place to stay, and again, he's in need of emergency accommodation, and he's been staying on the cafe floor every night for about 5 months, I think. Another young man told me, he's waiting 7 weeks for a detox bed, may not get it before Christmas, doesn't want to stay in some of the other hostels because of the prevalence of drug taking, so he would prefer the floor to a bed somewhere else. And all of them were aware that this really isn't ideal, but all of them were also keen to stress to me the alternative, particularly now as the weather gets colder, it was a lot rougher. I put it to Tony Gagan, Merchants Quay CEO, that notwithstanding the fact that there is a homeless crisis, surely having up to 70 people sleeping on the floor of a cafe is not best practice. It's coming up to 11:45 here. The cafe is full, we can probably hear it in the background. We'll just take a little walk down the corridor here. And on the right here, people are getting cleaned up, having showers.
There's a couple of people having a shower, getting cleaned up before they try and get their head down for a while. We were hidden for 2 years, so we had told initially for maybe 6 months and that an action plan would kick in, more emergency accommodation would come on stream. We're still here nearly 2 years later.
Is that the danger in a way that what is temporary emergency accommodation becomes part of a stable provision for people?
That's what's happening every year. We have a cold weather initiative, and then the beds become regular rather than just being a short-term intervention.
But are we in danger then when we are regularising a situation where people are essentially sleeping on mats?
The main thing I feel when I'm in here is this the best we can do for people?
Is it?
No, it shouldn't be, but apparently it is. It is upsetting when you're in here because we thought it was going to be a short-term initiative.
But is there, like, have you gone to government and said, we have a situation here where we have up to 70 people sleeping on the floor at night? Where are the beds? Surely somebody can provide us with camper beds. Surely you can provide us with better facilities.
place. It's secure in here. It is safe. You know, and it is more people are in there. You know, it's the weather is turning colder now as well. But it's not good enough. You know, we told our hands up and said, look, this isn't good enough intervention.
So let's see what is said about it later in the day. Brian, thanks indeed for that report. And as Tony and you've been saying, it's those numbers being added. They're not included in the 168 from Simon. And indeed, I know, Brian, you yourself reported on people sleeping in Stephen's Green, and then there are people in Phoenix Park forecourts, as well as the forecourts and squats around. So still that challenge remains. Brian O'Connell, thanks indeed for that report. We'll be talking about the US election with two campaigners after the break.
Today with Sean O'Rourke on RTE Radio 1.
Not only is Blazing Man unlike any festival you've ever been to, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. The biggest spectacle under the Californian sky. Blazing Man is a crucible of creativity where the only essential is having an open. Aren't there much better ways to blow €1,000 than paying a TV license fine? Remember, if you have a TV, you need a TV license. It's the law. To get yours, visit tvlicense.ie. Blazing Man, White Rock, California, August 28th through 30th. Brought to you by the Department of Communications, Climate Action and Environment.
An efficient history of energy efficiency. People think coal, oil and natural gas will last forever.
They realize that might not be the case. Energy efficiency becomes a matter of national and international importance. People realize they should be more energy efficient. So whether your business is small, Energia will give you up to 30% funding for an energy efficiency project, reducing your bills long term. Visit energia.ie/funding today. Terms and conditions apply.
The TG Cahir All-Ireland Ladies Football Championship Finals take place on Sunday, September the 25th in Croke Park. Antrim meet Longford in the junior decider at 11:45. The TG Cahir Intermediate Final features Kildare and Clare at 1:45 p.m. and Cork and Dublin renew their rivalry in the TG Cahir Senior Final at 4 p.m. Tickets available from tickets.ie, the Ladies Gaelic Football Association and usual GAA outlets. League Lynn in Croke Park and help change the record. Tweet at today SOR.
And lots of people sending us texts, particularly about speed bans and the rest. My husband got done for speeding slightly over the limit and got points. The best thing that ever happened. He hasn't sped since, says one caller. Another one saying, I went to the ploughing from Limerick yesterday and didn't see a speed ban at all. That's from James Murnane. And another one saying, fair play to Michael Healy-Rae, the only TD with the courage to speak out on an issue that is really annoying motorists. Another one, though, says that it's shocking that the authorities treat Kerry people like they were the same as everybody else. Regards from Peter in Navan. Now to United States politics. Nicola Ambrose is a Republican National Committee woman for Maryland, and Mark Silver is a Democratic campaign consultant. They're in Dublin as guests of the American Embassy to debate on the US election. It's been a busy week, as we know, for both candidates, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. She has been in Philadelphia and Florida, and Donald Trump has also been in Florida and in North Carolina. All this with the background of the New York, New Jersey bombings and the arrest of Ahmad Khan Rahmani. Good morning and welcome to you both, and you're very welcome to the studio. Welcome to Ireland. I think it's your first time here. Let's just listen first of all to Donald Trump's reaction to the arrest of the aforementioned Ahmad Khan Rahmani. Here he is speaking in Florida.
Today, we have caught this evil thug who planted the bombs. Thank you, law enforcement. Thank you, police. But the bad part, now we will give him amazing hospitalization. He will be taken care of by some of the best doctors in the world. He will be given a fully modern and updated hospital room. And he'll probably even have room service, knowing the way our country is. And on top of all of that, he will be represented by an outstanding lawyer. His case will go through the various court systems for years, and in the end, people will forget, and his punishment will not be what it once would have been. What a sad situation. We must have speedy, fair trials, and we must deliver
I mean, do you agree with his stance? Because by extension, he's really attacking all immigrants there, effectively, and a lot of refugees as well.
Well, no, he's actually just attacking people who commit crimes and try to kill Americans. There's a huge difference between being a legal immigrant and being someone who is a criminal who tries to kill people. I actually think that was a pretty decent summary of how our system does cater to people. Now, obviously, if you got injured not trying to maim Americans on our soil, of course, we're delighted that we have this wonderful medical system, that our system is the R&D capital of the planet. But there is certainly questioning, and this is kind of gets to the heart of why Americans are angry. And
okay, let's just hear by contrast how Hillary Clinton reacted to the same bombings.
This threat is real, but so is our resolve. Americans will not cower, we will prevail. We will defend our country, and we will defeat the evil, twisted ideology of the terrorists. I'm the only candidate in this race who has been part of the hard decisions to take terrorists off the battlefield. We should also launch an intelligence surge to help identify and thwart attacks before they can be carried out. We need to work more closely with Silicon Valley and other partners to counter terrorist propaganda and recruitment efforts online. And it is crucial that we continue to build up trust between law enforcement and Muslim American communities.
All very measured, Max Silver, but not the kind of stuff that's going to get people out to vote for her.
Well, the terrorists only win when they make us afraid. Because, frankly, ISIS and extremists in general don't ever have the firepower to do serious damage to the United States. Their power is when they put their fear in the hearts and minds of people. And I think that what Hillary's trying to do is show that we need to be calm, we need to be strong, because we're stronger than they are. I think that, by contrast, Trump's statement came across as afraid, but on top of that, came across as sort of, questioning the basic tenets of our Constitution, that people have a right to an attorney, that people have a right to a fair trial, regardless of who they are.
And we had as well, Nicola, the example of Donald Trump's son yesterday comparing Syrian refugees to sort of faulty sweets and saying, look, if you wouldn't take three, if three of them might kill you, well, you'd hardly take a whole bunch of them. In other words, attacking people who want to take refuge in America, as indeed I think some 10,000 people have done from Syria this year.
Well, I have to tell you, I think Americans would, historically, we have welcomed many refugees. We have a great program for that at the Department of State. The problem Americans have is our lack of confidence in our government and our ability to properly vet people. So I don't think in any country would want people who have not been vetted allowed into their program when they come from a hotspot with extremism. So it should be a basic function of government. I think all of us in the Western world should demand that refugees are properly vetted, and therein lies the question.
Well, and the reality is that in the U.S. we have an incredibly rigorous vetting process where Syrian refugees, it typically takes over a year for them to get through the process. It's much harder to come here as a refugee than through virtually any other avenue to come to the country, which is why we've had such a small number of refugees involved in any wrongdoing, because it'd be a lot easier for them to come on a work visa or something else.
What about the debate next Monday night, the first of the three debates? Predictions are being made that it's going to be the biggest television audience in the history of the United States, upwards of 100 million people expected to tune in. It's going to even surpass the figures for the Super Bowl. Is that what you're expecting? And if so, Nicola, you're talking about maybe up to maybe 40-50% of those viewers tuning in for the first time to this election. How do you think Donald Trump should play it?
Great question. I do agree it will be highly watched, probably more than the Super Bowl. I can't imagine we'll hit 100 million, though. That would be hard to do. But I think Donald Trump obviously needs to really stress his strongest themes, which are, I'm a great manager, I will fix the problems with this country being poorly managed and help reform the government, streamline it. Number two, I will fix the economy and help bring you more jobs. And number three, I'll keep you safe.
And Hillary Clinton, is she going to be able to get away, Mac, from the constant themes that she is not to be trusted and she just is unlikable in the eyes of an awful lot of people?
The likability has always been a great setting for Hillary Clinton because she always shows that she has a categorical knowledge of the issues. In 2008, she won nearly every debate with Barack Obama and John Edwards. And he won on other counts. So I think that the debates are not what she's got to be worried about. Where she's got to be worried is everything else that happens from now until the election.
Such as, in other settings, is she going to have a press conference, which, she hasn't held one in over 200 days, and at some point, she's going to have one prior to the election. And I think that's a setting that's going to be much more difficult than the debate, which I think she'll easily put Donald Trump on his heels, given the fact that he's a thin-skinned individual who, tends to overreact when he's needled in these debate settings.
Will he be advised, and will he listen to people who advise him? Do you think, Nicola, just, don't rise to debates, just be measured, be presidential?
Clearly, I think what Americans want to see is a temperament, a proper, measured temperament. People have certainly gravitated towards Donald Trump because, well, it's quite frankly, this is the presidential year that reality TV are married with politics. But I think part of the reason you're seeing, there are two reasons. The reasons you're seeing Donald Trump tied or surpassing Hillary now in our polls in the past week is he has a fantastic campaign team in place now with Kellyanne Conway and Dave Bosse doing an amazing job. Clearly that kind of disciplined marriage that you expect in a presidential campaign is now happening, and that's gelling. And two, he is such a master of marketing. The term crooked Hillary, it not only talks about her lack of trustworthiness and the fact that she lies, but it gets to the fact that she's flat out done illegal things, and his imagery is just beautiful.
So, there's been 20 plus years of sort of fake scandals where there's been a lot of smoke and not a lot of fire about Hillary Clinton. The reality is that nothing she's done has been anything close to what's come out on the Trump Foundation in the last 2 weeks, where he spent over $200,000 of charitable money on his own legal defense. He spent tens of thousands of dollars of charitable money basically buying off state attorney generals to not prosecute him. And he spent charitable money getting not one but two giant 6-foot-tall portraits of himself made with his own charity's money.
Correction for the record, Hillary Clinton has been involved in politics for 45 years. Starting in 1971, her first job on the Watergate Committee, she was removed for illegal activity. It is not illegal to defend yourself, it is true. And furthermore, Hillary Clinton and her husband Bill Clinton
first thing that comes up is conspiracy theory.
American defense secrets to places like China against the recommendation of the Department of Defense, etc.
Why do you think Putin wants Trump to win? Why is he speaking?
I actually don't necessarily agree with that because I'm a big fan of the Teddy Roosevelt theory, the Ronald Reagan theory of foreign affairs, walk softly and carry a big stick. So I actually think the bad actors in this world will behave much better with a President Trump than they would with a President Clinton that they can buy off.
It's pretty simple. Donald Trump says that he's not going to defend his NATO allies, and Putin would love that. I mean, it lets Russia, grow in its global power importance as the United States shrinks.
What's your biggest fear in the last it's just under 7 weeks now to the vote? What do you think is that? Where do you think it could come off the road, off the rails, I should say, Nicola, for Trump?
I think he just has to continue with his track record of just being more on message and more disciplined. I think he would be over 60% in the polls if he just stuck to his talking points of, I will fix this federal government morass, I will keep you safe, I will bring you jobs. So I think the trick is just to stay on message.
He seems impervious to, temporary setbacks. Maybe it seemed to lose a point or two or a few, or more than a few, but he always used to bounce back, whether it's what he says about, John McCain going right back. I mean, there have been so many moments that you could say that, he's not going to get away with this, he's finished now. And he just keeps on coming back. And even we see now, being reminded that George Bush Sr. doesn't intend to vote for this guy, but it's just water off the duck's back.
He's a one-of-a-kind figure. I mean, for all of his incredibly controversial and frankly offensive statements, he's immensely charismatic. I think furthermore, typically parties lose the presidency when they held it for 2 terms. I think that if the Republican Party didn't have such an unpopular nominee, they'd be almost certain to be ahead in this thing. And, him saying these things is the only thing that makes it possible for the Dems to win a rare 3rd term.
We shall leave it there for now. Thank you both for coming in. Nicola Ambrose, Republican political activist, Conservative commentator and Republican National Committee woman for Maryland. Thank you, and my thanks as well to Mac Zilber, Democratic campaign consultant and partner with Jacobson and Zilber Strategies, of whom President Clinton once
said. That's Mac. In a world of perfect information and rational behaviour, we wouldn't need Mac Silver's commitment. Thank you both for coming in. Good luck with the rest of your engagements here. Right now, though, time to go to the newsroom. It's just 3 minutes past 11. Over to Brian Jennings.
Good morning, Sean, and a very good morning from the newsroom. The Garda Commissioner has said she accepts the length of time the investigation into the murder of Adrian Donoghue is frustrating for his family, his colleagues and the community. Noreen O'Sullivan said, however, that the Gardaí have to be meticulous in this murder inquiry and mistakes have to be avoided. She said she remained confident in the determination of the Gardaí to solve the murder and bring the perpetrators to justice. She was speaking at a ceremony to award a Gold Scott Medal to Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue, who was shot dead outside Dundalk 3.5 years ago. Egyptian officials say 4 suspected traffickers have been detained after a migrant boat with an estimated 550 people on board capsized in the Mediterranean yesterday. The Egyptian authorities say just 160 people have been rescued and at least 42 bodies have been recovered. Survivors say some people were kept on the boat off the Egyptian coast for 5 days as traffickers brought more and more people on board. The Department of Health is to provide an additional €2 million in funding for the HSE as part of the new housing plan. The money will cover primary care, mental health and addiction services for people who are homeless. In July, the Minister for Housing, Simon Coveney, announced a 6-year action plan to tackle homelessness and promised to end the use of hotels and B&Bs for emergency accommodation by the middle of next year. The General Secretary of the NBRU has claimed the Department of Transport is involved behind the scenes in dismantling Bus Éireann, which yesterday announced plans to separate its loss-making expressway service from the rest of the company, amongst other planned efficiencies. Unions have criticised the proposals and say industrial action is likely. A further 2-day stoppage in the Dublin bus pay dispute begins tomorrow.
RTE Radio 1 weather with Aer Lingus. With Wi-Fi, blockbuster movies and award-winning service on board for great value transatlantic flights, Smart Flies Aer Lingus.
Sunny spells in many places, but showers in western areas will become more widespread this afternoon. Some heavy and prolonged showers will occur, especially in Connacht and Ulster, where there will be a risk of isolated thunderstorms, fresh and breezy, with highest temperatures of 13 to 16 degrees. And that's all from the newsroom for now.
Brian, thanks for that, and we'll have headlines again before we hand over to Ronan at midday. Time, though, for news of sport, and Damien O'Mara is with me. Damien, I suppose the speculation inevitable about who's going to run the Clare Hurlers, or at least manage the seniors.
Yeah, the statement by the Clare County Board in which Davy Fitzgerald resigned, made public just before 8 o'clock last night, Sean. Already rampant speculation in the newspapers this morning. Anthony Daly, Brian Lohan, the dream team perhaps has been suggested. The other leading contenders early on will have to be Jerry O'Connor and Donald Maloney, who led the county to 3 under-21 All-Irelands successively. I think most people by now will know that Davy Fitzgerald took the decision himself to resign last night. That after a meeting of the squad earlier this week, which was instigated by the manager, indicated that some were keen for a change in direction on the sidelines.
Some, but by no means all. In fact, not even a majority, according to.
Well, herein lies the issue, and this is the situation that we've had in plenty of counties over the years. Certainly seems to have been the situation in Mayo last year as well, is that does the opinion of the senior players who perhaps are in the latter stages of their careers carry more weight in a situation than perhaps the overall consensus does. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure all of this will come out in the wash in time, and we will have to wait and see how it all plays out. But as Niall Gilligan suggested on Morning Ireland this morning, you know, took charge in 2012 and All-Ireland in 2013. It's not just the manager who's failed to press on since then, but an All-Ireland and a league title in 4 years in the competitive world of hurling is not a bad return. So that story will go on. Managerial news as well in the offing in Roscommon. The bid to become their next football manager has been reduced to a 2-horse race. Nominations for the post closed there last night. Kevin McStay, who had served as joint manager with Fergie O'Donnell last year, will go up against the under-21 manager Nigel Dineen. Manchester City should discover today the extent of the injury which forced their captain Vincent Kompany off in the final seconds of his comeback last night. Kompany returned to face Swansea in City's win in the English Football League Cup, but he made his way down the tunnel just before the conclusion of the club's 2-1 win. His manager Pep Guardiola was last night unable to confirm if it was a reoccurrence of the thigh injury which had sidelined him for 4 months. Spurs have announced that their full-back Danny Rose has signed a contract extension which will keep him at White Hart Lane until the summer of 2021, while Aston Villa have launched an internal club investigation into the off-field behaviour of former Irish under-21 international Jack Grealish. Police were called to a party which he threw at a Birmingham hotel in the early hours of Sunday morning after they drawn with Ipswich on Saturday night. His manager Roberto Di Matteo is now the 4th Villa manager who's had to take some form of disciplinary action as a result of elements within Grealish's social life.
Jack the lad.
Most certainly so, and the club's Chinese owner has also taken to Twitter to try and urge the player to focus on his career and on-field talent, so that's set to roll on. Play has finally got underway at golf's European Open in Germany. The Pro-Am and the practice rounds had to be cancelled because of waterlogging earlier in the week. Fog today meant that play was delayed by 3 hours and 25 minutes. James Morrison, 4 under par after 5 holes, holds a 1-shot lead. Michael Hoey is at 1 under after 5. Padraig Harrington has parred his opening hole. Rory McGee, Paul Dunn yet to get underway. Rory McIlroy is in action at the Tour Championship in Atlanta later. He needs to win in order to have a chance of winning the season-ending FedEx Cup. And finally, Mark Allen Shawn will return to action in snooker's Shanghai Masters today. It is a world ranking event, and Allen will face Ding Junhui in the second round.
Just wondering, just going back to Jack Grealish, if the influence of Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane might have been out to put a bit of schmuck on him if he'd taken the right decision.
Yeah, but
just as well we don't have.
Well, I'm looking at it here. You've had Roberto Di Matteo, you've had Tim Sherwood, Rene Gard and Paul Lambert, none of whom are shrinking violets, and yet young Jack manages to get himself in the papers for the wrong reasons. Stan Collymore, who himself isn't a stranger to off-field antics, has written an open letter to him where he's basically told him, get rid of the hangers-on, focus on your career, get rid of the lads hanging around leading you astray.
Okay, just time to get an old head on those young shoulders of his. Damien, thanks indeed for that. Now, if you are among the hundreds of thousands of people who depend on public transport to get around, then presumably you're watching with more than a little interest what's happening in Dublin Bus, in Bus Éireann, and indeed Iarnród Éireann. The appalling vista is that before too long we could be facing serious disruption on buses, trains and DART services. On the line now, Michael Doherty, Professor of Law at NUI Maynooth, specialising in industrial relations. Good morning to you, Michael.
Morning, Sean.
It looks like a situation, if you throw in what happened with Bus Éireann unions and management meeting yesterday, and what we're hearing today about the possibility of wildcat strikes in support of wildcat action in support of the Dublin bus drivers, and that continuing dispute as well. Next phase beginning at 9 o'clock this evening. It looks like things are going to get worse before they get any better, doesn't it?
It does at the minute. I mean, I suppose without being, you don't want to be too alarmist, because these things always do get settled, and usually the settlement kind of comes, not necessarily when you're expecting it, but at the moment, yes. I mean, things don't look great. I mean, the one thing I would say, compared to, say, the Lewis dispute of a few months ago, is this time the unions seem to have taken a much more coordinated role. So the kind of threat of wildcat action and so on, I'm not sure is maybe as overt as during the Lewis dispute, where it seemed that a lot of stuff was happening on the ground, kind of in an uncoordinated way.
Yes, and I suppose the point is made by observers, people who watch this all the time, people like Ingrid Miley, for instance, our industry and employment correspondent, that the machinery of the state doesn't really get cranked up until there's something about which it can get cranked up about. In other words, somebody has a new element to put into it, and there's absolutely no sign of that at the moment.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's precisely the problem, I suppose. So if you take the Dublin bus issue, it's been to the Labour Court, and there's been a kind of an initial recommendation given. The Labour Court, its role and the way it operates is always, it will never kind of lead on pay. It will never kind of come up with a figure that's beyond what's generally happening in the economy. And we know there's a fair bit of evidence now that in the private sector where union deals are being done, they're kind of in the 2 to 3% space, and it's in a range of sectors, interestingly. So, from pharmaceuticals to retail and so on, there seems to be a norm settling around that, and that's why the Labour Court's recommendation will always be fairly kind of firmly within that norm. So the Labour Court, the WRC, they're not going to get involved unless they see some movement on either side. At the moment, of course, what's complicating these disputes, and I heard in the news bulletin there, the comments from the NBRU about the Department of Transport, is in the background you have this issue of adequate funding. And that obviously goes beyond the unions, the employers and the employees, and it goes to the state and the Department of Transport and the Minister for Transport. So you have all these complicating factors that nobody really wants to move first, I assume, but I'm sure behind the scenes there is work going on to try and get something, at least to restart the talk.
And what do you make of the approach that the Minister, Mr. Ross, has been taking up to now, standing well back?
Interesting. I mean, in public transport disputes, certainly in the last kind of 10 years or so, the Minister of the day has always been very clear that, and it has been a he, is not going to get involved. And in many ways that's appropriate because, you can't have the state intervening, every time there's a dispute in a state company, but which has an independent management structure. In this instance, I have to say, as a personal view, I don't think the Minister's comments are particularly helpful, because I don't, in industrial relations disputes, language matters an awful lot. I think using terms like sugar daddy and pot of gold and all this, I don't think that's really helpful. I think the Minister could indicate that, it's a matter for the parties without kind of using some of the rhetoric that he's used, but, he has a very personal style and so on. There's one other, I suppose, thing that the current government in July, they announced that they were going to set up what's called the Labour Employers Economic Forum, which is supposed to be this kind of body involving unions, employers and the state to discuss kind of general matters of social and economic interest. And now it's explicitly not there to get involved in disputes, but I just wonder if part of the resolution to this could be to kind of kick the overall strategic question about funding to that body, and in that sense get the issue of the subvention kind of out of this dispute over there, with a promise that something will be looked at. That's one possibility of intervention that wouldn't directly.
Yes, because as we heard Dermot O'Leary of the NBRU say earlier on Morning Ireland, you can't just ignore the fact that, as he called them, the permanent government, the people who run civil servants who run the Department of Transport, they're the ones who have been inspiring the kind of policy decisions taken by the government. They're the ones behind the decisions to reduce the subvention, and now what the situation where the company is, be it Dublin Bus or indeed Bus Éireann, are seriously short of funds. It actually goes back to their door.
Yeah, it's an interesting comment. I mean, I spoke about Minister Ross, that's from Dermot O'Leary as well, kind of ratcheting up the rhetoric a little bit. I mean, I don't know, is one of the problems here, we hear it all the time, the new politics, that we don't really have a lot of political stability at the minute, and in industrial relations, stability is really, really hard to get, and it's very, very easily lost again. And what you really need in kind of high-profile, really impactful disputes like this, which would, if this escalates, will affect, virtually everybody in the country, commercially, personal life, and so on. I'm not sure if the current political situation is helping matters.
Yeah, and also there's the fact as well that in recent times, aside altogether the fact that the whole social partnership model has been set aside, some of the key fixers, if you like, have now retired. People I'm thinking particularly of guys like Kieran Mulvey and Kevin Duffy.
Yeah, I mean, there has been some comment about that. I mean, in disputes like this in the past, you had very high-profile people, particularly, I suppose, Kieran Mulvey, who would always be, involved out front. It's probably too early to say, they've been replaced by two, excellent people in Kevin Foley and Una Duffy, who are really experienced and, I'm sure, are not sitting idly by, put it like that. But yeah, I suppose in addition to the whole issue of political instability, you have a kind of large-scale change of the people, the key figures involved in this, and that probably doesn't help. But I mean, ultimately, it will have to come down to the unions and the employers coming up with some kind of solution, irrespective of the kind of broader strategic question.
Okay, we shall watch and wait for developments. Michael Doherty, a professor of industrial relations, of law, specialising in industrial relations at NUI Maynooth. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We'll be talking to the poet Paul Muldoon after the break.
On RTE Radio 1.
This is the sound of someone enjoying a run in the pine forest. Just one of the things you can do to help lower your cholesterol. Enjoying Moneygall is another. Only Moneygall yogurt drinks, pots and spreads contain plant stanols found in the heart of the pine forest, which can help lower your cholesterol. Moneygall with plant stanol ester, an effective push to lower your cholesterol. Plant stanol ester has been shown to lower blood cholesterol. High cholesterol is a risk factor in the development of coronary heart disease.
Accidents happen fast on water. There may not be time to reach for a life jacket in an emergency. Too many only wear their life jacket sometimes, but sometimes is not enough. So don't just carry a life jacket, wear it. If it's not on you, it can't save your life. Be smart from the start. Always wear a life jacket. Visit Irish Water Safety's website, iws.ie.
They were looking for style, comfort, warmth. They left ready for anything. The battle for autumn and winter starts at Swords Pavilions, close to the M1. Come to our free winter fashion show at 1, 2, 3 and 4 p.m. on Saturday the 1st and Sunday the 2nd of October. 2 hours free parking. Swords Pavilions. Live by the sword. Why Dunnes Stores for school night dinners? Well, they have 3 for €10 across 22 Dunnes Stores meat, poultry and fish products, including this extra lean minced beef, that fresh Irish whole chicken, and those delicious and healthy fresh salmon darns. I got them all for just €10. And because I spent €50, I used my shop and save voucher and saved a further €10. So my €50 shop only cost me €40. There are always more ways to save on school night dinners with Dunnes Stores. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. RTE Radio 1.
Paul Simon, live concert.
Making new plans.
November 21st, Free Arena. Night of unforgettable songs from Paul Simon's unforgettable career. Tickets available now. Presented by Aiken Promotions in association with the Irish Times.
Live music updates on RTE Radio 1.
Tweet at Today SOR.
Over the past 5 decades, Paul Muldoon has become one of Ireland's most celebrated poets, publishing 12 collections, winning a Pulitzer Prize and lecturing on poetry and creative writing at Princeton and Oxford. He was once described by Seamus Heaney as one of the era's true originals. Now he's attempted to put his lifetime's work into one collection with a new book called Selected Poems 1968 to 2014. Paul Muldoon, good morning to you and thank you for joining us in studio.
Thank you for having me.
This collection, as I say, spans more than 45 years of your work. Where do you start putting together, or how do you put together a collection like that? Because you're the one who chose them.
You know, I'm reminded of that great line from Julie Andrews in Character, of course. We start at the beginning and sort of keep moving. One of the things about a selected, of course, is that it's just that. And this is a fairly severe selection, though perhaps for some people not severe enough, in the sense that I've taken 5 poems only from each of the 12 books. And that was just, actually we started with 6 and then we thought we'd cut back a bit further. You know, it's meant to be a quick run through, a zoom through, I suppose, a tour d'horizon, tour of the horizon, as we say up in County Armagh. But you know, it's not meant to be the whole story. It's meant to give a flavour of some of the things that have happened over those 45 years.
And you're going to read some of them for us in a few minutes, but there's one poem called The Mixed Marriage. It's about your parents who were very different. You describe, Paul, your father as a servant boy who left school at 8 or 9, while your mother was a school teacher who read the Acts of the Apostles and Gulliver's Travels after dinner. Tell me a bit more about growing up in that house. It must have been very interesting.
You know, I suppose there's always an element of mystery about one's parents. At least for many people there is. And I mean, there's an element of mystery about one's own relationships. I've been married for 30 years, and you know, almost every day I think, how did that happen? In the case of my parents, you know, they got on very well actually, but they were quite different. My mother, as you suggest, you know, well educated. My father, someone who left school to go out and hire out in a hiring fair. That would have been about 1920, and you know, I remember him quite vividly remember him saying to me, because he heard me
And he said, "Oh, you made me very young. You made me very young." So he might have been a bit more than 9 or 10. He might have been 11 or 12. But he was hired out as an indentured servant, as so many were in that era, and worked for a farmer. He brought me to see him actually later in life, the Hardys of Carnteal up near Ochnacloy there in County Tyrone. But in any case, you know, he was a great man, and I think that she recognised that in him. He was a decent, very decent, sociable character, and that was the core of their marriage. Not a mixed marriage in the sense we tend to use it in this country, but a mixed marriage in the sense that I think probably most marriages are mixed.
Right, now the first poem you're going to read for us is Why Brownlee Left. It's there, I think it's on page 29 or thereabouts in the book, and maybe you might read it and we'll talk about it then.
I will, thank you. Why Brownlee left and where he went is a mystery even now. For if a man should have been content, it was him. 2 acres of barley, 1 of potatoes, 4 bullocks, a milker, a slated farmhouse. He was last seen going out to plough on a March morning, bright and early. By noon, Brownlee was famous. They had found all abandoned, with the last rig unbroken, his pair of black horses, like man and wife, shifting their weight from foot to foot and gazing into the future.
That was published in 1980, I think.
That's right.
What's the background to that?
Well, you know, actually, in that era, I worked as a radio producer for the BBC, and as it happens, in the toilets in the BBC, the doors in the toilets had been made by a company called Brownlee. So I was reminded of this name every day, or most days, as it were. And I was reminded, of course, that there was a family called Brownlee who lived nearby. Brownlow, the name of the family name of Lord Lurgan, who had owned Master McGrath, among other distinctions, who lived in the vicinity. So I was thinking about that name, Brownlee, which of course I suppose in some sense means a ploughed, could be read as a ploughed field. And I combined that with this image of 2 horses standing in the middle of a field. And of course we're just after the National Ploughing Championships in Ireland.
Oh, they're still on.
Oh, they're still on.
Last day today.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful to see people still delighting in that. I mean, it's wonderful. Do they use horses as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yes. And I mean, and the best of them as well, and very intensely contested too.
Right. Well, I was born in 1951, and of course the horse, my first memories of being stepped on by a horse. There were a lot of horses around. There were tractors, of course, but with the war and just coming out of the war.
Stepped in your foot.
Stepped in my heel.
I've had that experience. It's a very sore one.
Yeah, it's not amusing. And I've tended to give horses a wide berth since then. But in any case, there were a lot of horses around. I guess there was petrol rationing during the war, and the horse had made something of a comeback. So I remember my father working with a horse on the little bit of ground that we had, sowing turnips with a turnip barrow. It seems like a million years ago, you know?
People reading that poem might well say to themselves it might have echoes of Kavanagh, of Heaney. Of course, Seamus Heaney was a mentor of yours, a teacher, and a great friend. You had the honour, and I suppose the sad duty of paying a tribute to him at his funeral.
I did, yes. And of course, Seamus and I, though he was a bit older, 12 years older, had very similar experiences. I think most people in Ireland, I suppose, had very similar experiences, and those experiences not so removed from the experience of Patrick Kavanagh. And of course, Kavanagh, I suppose, for anyone who's trying to write in Ireland, is one of those poets who has been really important, and who has given us a sense that it's actually okay to write a poem about, a Glencair's ass, for example, the poem about the on the donkey or the cart that's full of dung, that these subjects are just as reasonable as some grand topic, you know, that Milton might have addressed, you know, that one might just as easily write about Kerr's donkey as man's first disobedience.
You published your first collection, Paul, I think when you were 20. Now that must have taken either somebody maybe it was Heaney, somebody very encouraging to give you the confidence to do it, or else you had a lot of self-esteem yourself, or maybe you just met a good editor and a good publisher.
You know, I was very lucky. Seamus Heaney certainly helped me. He pointed me in the direction of a man called Charles Monteith, who was the poetry editor at Faber's then. And Charles was from up round Strabane, I think it was. His family was up from up round there. He was the editor who had found Lord of the Flies after it had been round, 45 publishers or something.
That's one hell of a claim to fame, isn't it?
It is. I mean, he'd done other things too, but that was one of his main claims. And, you know, it arrived in this kind of dog-eared version on his desk, and he bought it, and you know, that was a huge find. But he published, you know, he was T.S. Eliot's immediate successor as poetry editor, and he took on a number of poets, Seamus Heaney, of course, and then Seamus directed me, you know, towards him.
Now, the next poem you're going to read for us is The Sightseers, from a collection you published in 1983. I think it was taking on things to do with politics and the Troubles. You might read that for us now, please.
I will. This is a poem about the Ballygolly roundabout, the first roundabout as it happens in Ireland. Hard to believe now. You probably remember that era when people used to say the great thing about the north of Ireland is the roads.
It's a roundabout I know well, because I go to Moneygall quite a bit, and you sort of feel you're well over halfway, I think, when you get to the Ballygolly roundabout. Actually, no, you're not, but you feel you are anyway, maybe.
Well, it was one of the great moments, I think, when it opened there. Actually, John Montague, a poet who went to the same school as I did, and also a kind of influence, I think, had written a poem about the new Omer Road, which of course is connects there with the Ballygolly roundabout. Anyway, this is a poem that has to do with a particular family memory and some of the horrors, I suppose, that we experienced in this country for so long. The Sightseers. My father and mother, my brother and sister, and I, with Uncle Pat, our dour, best-loved uncle, had set out that Sunday afternoon in July in his broken-down Ford, not to visit some graveyard. One died of shingles, one of fever, another's knees turned to jelly. But the brand new roundabout at Ballygolly, the first in mid-Ulster. Uncle Pat was telling us how the B Specials had stopped him one night somewhere near Ballygolly and smashed his bicycle and made him sing the sash and curse the Pope of Rome. They held a pistol so hard against his forehead there was still the mark of an O when he got home.
Quite graphic, quite evocative there. Of course, not far from that very roundabout, if memory serves me. In fact, I recall passing it and noticing it on many occasions. A memorial to a lot of people killed in an atrocity during the Troubles there. And I suppose the Troubles were very much a theme of your work, and also I suppose your day-to-day living in Northern Ireland, working in the BBC. What did you specialise in there? Was it arts programmes or everyday journalism?
I specialised in arts programmes, yes, that's what I did. I started there in 1973, just out of university, and stayed there until 1986. And, I actually worked for, it was that era, 1974, I believe it was, or 5 maybe, when there was a concept, which you may recall, the concept of hands across the border. And I actually came down here to RTE on a little secondment and worked down here. I used to do the Dear Sir or Madam, the letters program with Barry McGovern reading the letters, kind of hilarious to think of Barry and his career since then. But at that stage he was with the RTE rep, I suppose, and that was his job.
We put you on something fairly safe and well, depending on the choice of letters, I suppose.
But you know, that is absolutely right. When I arrived here, and I'm sure no one will mind me by telling this story, I was brought in here, and of course, I suppose people had no idea what they might have had. The first thing that happened was that I was shown and made to read, as it were, Section 31, I believe it was. Was that what it was?
The Broadcasting Act.
And then I was given a cubicle and I was given a phone. And the phone was a rotary phone with a lock on it. And every time I had to make a phone call, I had to ask someone to open the phone. So I'm not sure if, you know, I had quite a happy life.
Things have eased up a little since. And, well, I suppose depending on the phone, you can get an outside, you can get an international line and so forth. But tell me about leaving to go and work in Princeton. I mean, that was quite something, and also I think teaching in Oxford as well.
Well, I was for 5 years the Oxford Professor of Poetry, which of course is an honorary position, though as I love to say, I was quite proud of myself for coming up with this line. I'm going to use it again. There are very few honours that are not onerous. And, you know, I was required to write 15 lectures over those 5 years. And, you know, for someone like myself who I take forever to write a sentence, it's one of the curses of writing in this shorter form. I spend so long doing it. It's very hard for me to write a lecture, and it was very difficult for me to do that. Princeton I started in about 30 years ago, 87. I went over there and started work there at Columbia, and I've been there since and enjoy teaching there very much.
And I think this is the year you hit 65, which I think in normal circumstances, at least if you were teaching here in an Irish university, that you'd have to shuffle off to fresh fields. Do you have to leave at 65?
No, one's not required, but you know, they do suggest that one does get a letter. I think most people get a letter saying, well, now you're 65. They sugar it up a bit. They don't say, isn't it time you thought of moving on? But they do, you know, offer a deal. You know, I said to somebody recently, somebody I thought was a friend of mine, I said to them, I'm thinking of retiring. And they said, from what? And, you know, the fact is that being a teacher in a university is a very privileged position, and you know, but I do have to think about it, because one also has a responsibility to move on and let the next generation of academics come in.
And when you're teaching there in Princeton, are you the privileged teaching the privileged in the sense that it's a very costly thing for any young person in the United States to go to university?
Well, for many people it is. That's right. Now, Princeton is one of the things I like about Princeton is that it was actually, from what I recall, the first Ivy League university to put in place a policy whereby one was accepted need blind. So if you get into Princeton, I mean, I'm not sure it's quite as simple as this. I'm sure there are all kinds of considerations, but basically if you get in and you can pay for it, you pay for it. If you get in, you can pay a bit of it, you pay a bit of it. If you get in and you can't pay any of it, it will be paid for. And the great thing about that is they give you not a loan. Student loans are one of the curses of the universe, as far as I'm concerned. I'm terribly afraid that we're going down that road here a bit. They don't give you a loan, they give it to you outright. And they know, it's very calculating in many ways. They know that these students have had this privilege, and you know, they will give back. Whereas giving back here in this culture is really not part of the deal, and it won't be part of the deal for as long as students are paying off ridiculous loans.
Right, and so now just to come to the third poem, it's a much more recent one from a collection I think published last year, Pelt.
Pelt is a poem set inside a car in a fierce rainstorm where the rain is pelting down. But I suppose there's also the pelt in the sense of the skin, one's pelt. Pelt. Now rain rattled the roof of my car like holy water on a coffin lid. Holy water and mud landing with a thud. Though as I listened, the uproar faded to the stoniest of silences. They piled it on all day till I gave way to a contentment I'd not felt in years. Not since that winter I'd worn the world against my skin. Worn it fur side in.
Pelt, of course, having more than one meaning there.
That's right. That's right. Well, you know, that's one of the glories of words. I suppose that they resonate, they ripple out in various directions. The poet's job, I think, one of the jobs is, in a strange way, is to restrict the range of resonances. You know, there's a popular notion of poetry that it means all things to all men and women. And, you know, you can put your own, you know, take from it what you will or what you wish. I don't think it's quite as simple as that.
Aside from your work at Princeton, and you're also the poetry editor of The New Yorker, you're also in a band. Are you still in a band?
You know, one's never one of the things about being in a band, of course, as you may know, is that one's never sure if one is in it. You know, I've been away for a few days. I could go back and find myself thrown out of it. You never know. But it's a small band. It's a band that specialises in, you know, performing songs or lyrics that I've written. And that's my own interest in it, is attempting to write the odd song, doing a bit of spoken word over music, and it's tremendous fun. So I've always been interested in popular song, and I love trying to do it myself. I would never put it any more strongly than saying trying. Mind you, I wouldn't put it more strongly in the poetry business either than saying trying.
Well, listen, well done, and thank you so much for coming in, Paul Muldoon.
Thank you.
The book is called Paul Muldoon Selected Poems 1968 to 2014, published by Faber and Faber. I don't see a price on it, Paul, but I'm sure it's worth whatever they're charging. $14.99 sterling.
This morning it was €20.
Oh boy, and they obviously haven't heard in that particular shop about the collapse of sterling since the Brexit vote.
I'm just looking at it here.
They did well to get it for that. We have to get that from you, I should say. Paul Muldoon, thanks indeed. We'll be meeting returned, happy and triumphant Paralympians after this break.
Today with Sean O'Rourke on RTE Radio 1. RTE Radio 1.
Maddie Knickerbocker Gloria here. Just letting you know that the boys in green will soon be seen. Missing Stephen's Green for the best panto there's ever been.
Yes, it's Robin Hood and his merry men. This year's fabulous panto at the Gaiety Theatre from November 27th.
Don't be disappointed. Tickets available now.
This is no ordinary panto.
Entertainment updates with RTE Radio 1.
We are well up to speed. We are going places. We are building important connections. We are the driving force behind 225 million passenger journeys every year. We are helping to make Ireland's public transport network easy to find your way around. Download the free TFI Journey Planner app and real-time app, and you'll always have the most up-to-date travel information close to hand. Wherever you are, wherever you're going. Transport for Ireland. We are one.
Explore RTE at the Ploughing 2016. Listen in to your favourite programmes on RTE Radio 1, 2FM, Lyric FM and Radio na Gaeltachta. Watch Marty and Anya every evening from 7 with the Ploughing Live on RTE 1. Discover so much more with RTE on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Explore RTE at the National Ploughing Championships 2016. Tullamore, County Offaly, September 20th to
affiliation with Aldi, helping to maintain over 34,000 Irish jobs.
Podcast today's show at rte.ie/today with Sean O'Rourke.
Ireland's Paralympians touched down at Dublin Airport yesterday after a very good and impressive performance in Rio. Team Ireland brought home a total of 11 medals, 4 gold, 4 silver and 3 bronze, and needless to say there were some celebrations around the country last night, but happily 3 of our athletes have been very good to join me this morning. Greta Strimakita is with me in studio, as is Austin O'Carroll, who competed in the athletics and sailing respectively, and in our Galway studio I am joined by cyclist Owen Clifford. Owen, good morning to you from Galway. You can hear us okay, yes?
Yes, perfectly.
Thank you indeed, and look, congratulations and well done to all 3 of you. Owen, you have a gold and a bronze in the bag, as I say, back in Galway with your wife and baby daughter. What's it like having had the Olympic experience in Rio?
Yeah, I think it's been fantastic really. I think when you're over there, I suppose because I had races from the start to almost the end of the Paralympics, you know, you probably don't really get into the experience as much as you'd like to, because you're so focused on racing and training and, you know, nutrition and recovery. But I guess yesterday's homecoming at Dublin Airport and just all the messages of support I've had really, I suppose, has emphasised to me what this meant to everyone that has supported me over the last few years. So it was fantastic to get home yesterday and just see that support.
And you as well, I think, Greta, you didn't get into the medals. It's said that you came in the worst place of all. You finished 4th now in the 1500 metre final. How did you feel about that result?
I was happy. Of course, it's hard, you know, when you know that you were so close, but you know, it was my first Paralympic Games. For me, it was my goal to get into the final, and I did that. Then when I think about it, I got my PB. I did it too, and you know, it was all about the experience, and I had an amazing experience. And even though it was a bit unfortunate because I really wanted to bring a medal home, but I got so much experience, and you know, and no medal can buy that.
Yes, and you are, I think, hoping to get to Tokyo in 2020, but you're visually impaired, Greta. How much of the track and your competitors can you see when you're racing?
I couldn't, I suppose I couldn't say that I have troubles with racing. During the race, I suppose it was brilliant, not even brilliant, but I had this experience to run with, you know, with other athletes that had guides, so I wasn't really used to doing that. So for me, it was something new, and maybe I struggled a bit in a few places past the athletes with the guides, but in general, I couldn't complain. Everything went. I followed the plan, the race plan, what I had to do on the day, and everything went well.
Yeah, and did you find, and you wouldn't be unusual in this, I suppose, were you a bundle of nerves at any stage?
I was a bit, and I suppose the fantastic thing about Paralympic Games and was when you're standing at the start line, and I was trying to concentrate, especially the final, because there were so many people. I was a bit nervous, and then I was trying to concentrate for actual race, but there was so many people, and you can hear them all, and in my head I was thinking, guys, let me concentrate, I have to race now. But people were so supportive, and you know, and that really motivates you, and at the end you forget about all the nerves, and you just go there and you just race.
And Austin O'Carroll, you have been into us before, just talking about your work in the inner city as a GP, and also you battling with disability, but you were on the sailing crew. Now you wrote a blog which I think was called "For My Supporters on Being a Loser." Now that's a little bit overly self-deprecating, I would suggest. You did come with others. I think you were 13th But what did you say in that vlog? Remind us.
It's just that I was with John Subi, who's been his 11 Paralympics, Lee Costello's player, and Ben Lynch, our coach, and like we'd been ninth in the world the last 2 years, so we definitely had hoped to do well. And I was like reflecting on what it's like to be a loser. And the reason I was doing it was because I think the winners are fantastic, but most people out there at the Paralympics are losers. They've lost, and it's a pejorative term, loser. In fact, most people in society are probably losers because there's only one or two winners. So I was just reflecting what keeps us going, and I was looking at it like, you do go over there, even though you might be ninth in the world, even though you realistically, if you were to look at other teams have great resources, they have greater experience, you still hope you're going to win. You still think you're going to put out your best performance. You still think you may get there. And then as you gradually realise, because we had 10 races, and gradually saw ourselves sink down, and you think, oh, what, you know, so now you can't get us the medals, but you've got, I had all these supporters at home, Jackie and Liam, two friends of mine, I'd open up my WhatsApp and there'd be 250 more.
はい、今日はカウンティーオファリーとティペラリーの、ほぼ国境、場所はオファリーですけど、ほぼティペラリーの隣です。モニゴール、バラク・オバマ大統領のご先祖さんが、アイルランドということで4年前に来まして、ヘイズバーという地元のローカルパブで、ギネスを片手にスローンチャーした写真は世界に報道されましたんで、かなり有名ですけれども、そこに、一種ガソリンスタンドとフードコート、それから、アートエキシビションなんかやるフリースペースなどを兼ね備えて、シャワーもあるんですけども、バラク・オバマプラザという、一種アイルランドの一名物、ガスステーションといったらちょっとちっちゃいんで言い方変だけど、サービスストップ、そこをベースに、M7、ダブリン方向に M7、そしてポートルーシュナショナルプロギングチャンピオンシップ、いわゆるアイルランドのみならずヨーロッパ史上最大のアウトドアイベント、ナショナルプロギング、チャンピオンシップ2016がもうちょうどお酒のタラモアデューのタラモアっていうところでやってるんで、これがまたすごい。エレクトリーピクニックって有名ですけど、野外の音楽イベント、5倍ですよ、スペースは。延べ25キロ周回、全部回るのを3日で回るのはまず無理っていう。で、これがまた独特のイベントで、例えば、日本なんかでもいろんなイベントあるけど、基本的にアグリカルチャルイベント、農業のイベントなんですよ。例えばなんか自動車の発表会、新車のフェラーリが出た、ランボルギーニが出た、BM が出た、ポルシェが出た、わーかっこいいって子供たち言うのはわかるけど、トラクターですよ、トラクターを見て、うわーかっこいい。アイルランドの子供たちみんなもう大はしゃぎなんだよ。この感覚がね、どうも僕にはいまいちピッとこないんだけど、トラクターもすごいでかいやつなんで、日本でいうとなんかコマーシャルでヤンボーマンボー天気予報ってあって、トラクターが出るアニメーションの短い天気予報番組やったけど、あれですよ。あれをもっと拡充したような感じなんですけど、トラクター同士でサッカーやったり、もうね、なんかやることなることもはちゃめちゃなんで面白い。もう1日で10万人以上来る。アイルランド中からアイルランド警察ガーダが300人以上招集されるんですね。で、ティペラリーのオフィスガーダ警察がいわゆる、幹事をやって、あとはもうみんなの協調体制というだからこのイベントの時はアボイド・ザ・オファリーっていうのが一つのテーマで、用がなければオファリーに行くなと、もうすんごい渋滞するから車ってで、高速なんか行ってもプロギン単にサインが出て、こっちだよこっちだよってサインがもうあれなん中出てる。それのあるカントリーオファリーの、ポートルーシュの方、あとカントリーリーシュですね、リーシュ隣同士ですけど、そこで M7 と M8 が合流するんですけど、ティペラリーから M7 でダブリンまでだいたい2時間弱なんですけど、その途中半分ぐらいのところで M8 コーク方面、ロッコブキャシェルのキャシェルとかあるコーク方面から M8 が来て、それが合流しますと。でM7 で、ダブリンの手前のポートルーシュでクイッと U ターンして、今度は M8 コーク線高速道路、コーク首都高速道路ですけど、これを走るには通る有料道なんで、ワンエントランスで1ユーロ90、自動車でいう、1ユーロ90だから240円ぐらい取られます。 まあ首都高速の800円とか700円比べたらかなり安いですけど、そういう感じになります。これから向かってるのは、アイルランドエンシェントイーストの真髄、まあいろんな写真も出ますけど、ロックオブキャシェル、今日は午前中は天気かなりいいんでちょっと寄っていこうと思っています。カウンティティベラリーロックオブキャシェルに到着です。
It's great university, looking from athletics perspective, and they're really supportive. They have been so supportive during all the year, especially this year before Paralympic Games, and that makes it much easier for me with all the studying and all the work that I need to do for college. So I suppose I'm really grateful to DCU for that.
Right, and in Galway, Owen, I think you've said you're not going to go to another Olympics. Is that because of your condition, or is there another reason for it?
Yeah, I think I suppose that is part of the reason, and I think the other reason is before I started paracycling, I had been cycling and racing as in able-bodied races for, I don't know, 15 or 16 years now. So, I mean, cycling, you're training every day. You know, you could be 5, 6, 7 hours on the bike. You're racing. There's, you know, various risks that go with that, and I guess just with work and as I said, with young daughter, etc. I think this was my shot at the Paralympics, and I mean, you know, it was great to make the most of it. I think 4 years would just probably be a step too far for me.
And Austin, we know that the chief executive of Paralympics Ireland, Liam Harmison, has been saying he's concerned that Ireland won't be able to maintain the level of performance. I mean, it was a good performance, but slightly, well, maybe in medal terms, London was more successful. That might have been related to the fact that we were so close and people didn't have to travel as far. But he's concerned about a lack of funding. Is that something that you see as a bit of a hindrance?
I think it's absolutely clear. I mean, I thought it was really interesting. If you look at the Olympic table in Atlanta, I think UK were 36th. This year they were second. In the Paralympics, the UK were second. And that's just, they have a huge amount of investment in Paralympics. They use lottery funding. There's no doubt other teams are starting to invest larger amounts, and you can see the difference in funding, and that will put those teams up the rankings. There's no doubt, and our teams will go down. So it absolutely needs investment.
One thing, and I'd say, I suppose, a technical thing on, you might be able to enlighten us about the classification process. I mean, Greta, for instance, classified as T13, you were at T3, and Austin comes under the classification as solar. So how are the classifications ascertained, and how do they work?
Yeah, I suppose I'd be most familiar with cycling, but I think it's obviously similar across the board. But I mean, generally you would be put forward in front of an international classification panel, and they would examine you, and it would include various specialists from medical, physiotherapy, etc. And they would examine you to see how your particular disability impairs you in relation to the sport that you're doing. So I might be a particular classification in cycling, but if I was to go running, I would be in a different classification. And in my case, in cycling, you have 5 classifications, and what's called C5 being the least disabled and C1 being the most impaired. And I would be ranked at C3 at the moment. But for example, I could be reclassified if my condition was to degenerate significantly in the next number of months or years as a C2. So I think there has been a lot of work put into getting the classification right internationally, but it is one of the areas in, I think, Paralympics in general, that there probably needs to be, I feel, a more scientific approach taken, or a more technical approach taken to the classification system.
Austin, on another sorry, you want to get in on that?
I think it's really interesting, because in medicine, we often classify people as whether they're suitable or not for jobs. So, for example, my teammate Ian Costello is one of the best mechanics I know, but he can't get a job as an apprentice in a mechanic because he was seen as if on only one arm he wouldn't be able to do it. Over in the Paralympics, they used to assess people just purely on medical terms, but now they actually go and see what you can do. And that, to me, was the big thing I learned being at the Paralympic Village, and just see people just do things in ways you can't imagine. And that actually, to me, we need to take that learning from the Paralympics into the way we assess whether people can do jobs with disability, because this has to not just be aren't they great, it has to change people's perceptions and methods of how they work with people with disabilities.
Okay, look, I'm grateful to you all. Austin, just stay with us for a minute or two, because I want to ask you about something else if we just get time. But look, my thanks in the first instance to Greta Stream-Nikita, a middle distance runner, to Austin O'Carroll Sailor, and to Owen Clifford, cyclist. Congratulations to you all. You're welcome home. Enjoy the break. We'll have more just after.
keeps us connected to our customers, suppliers and the factory at all times.
She's explaining how Three, becoming Lear's one-stop communications provider, has delivered tangible benefits to her business. According to Suzanne, the two companies work perfectly together because they share the same ethos when dealing with customers.
Three provides us with the same high level of customer service that we provide to our customers. It's brilliant that Three are so proactive and supportive.
Discover everything that Three can do for your business at 3.ie/business.